weiß Bescheid. Entiendo.
Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast on the planet. Prepare to reevaluate everything you've been taught.
They can tell us we're crazy, and we can say, well, you haven't seen anything yet. Everything you knew was a goddamn lie. Would you up and explode like it's the 4th of July? Possessed by perfection in this land, if you're awake, you're the enemy. Where they lead, you will follow. Well, I guess that's just the way it goes. And if you look away, you'll be doing what they say. And if you look alive, you'll be singled out and tried. Every day a new deception, pick the scene and take direction, and on a search to connect, but I don't wear a mask and I have no regret. Down on your knees, you don't look so tall. Open your eyes and the empire falls.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. It's been a wild summer. Lots of fun things happening. And you know what? Whether you think you do or you think you don't, you do. You do deserve good things. It's been a lot of fun. Every year, I've talked about this a few years in a row, every year I take off to Ottawa, Canada's nation's capital, for the Bluesfest concert. Now this year, I will say that every announced show was not interesting to me. So for the first year in a long time, I didn't buy passes, but I had the time already scheduled off. So what did I do? I went to Ottawa and I went to Bluesfest. I love outdoor music. I love festivals. I love spending time with friends. I love the atmosphere. And the weird thing is I can't stand crowds, for the most part. But when you get into this crowd, everybody's just there to have a good time and to enjoy some great music. The crowds are okay. The crowds are wonderful. People move out of your way. Nobody's really rude. You're enjoying yourself. I noticed the times that I was there this year that the crowds were I want to say less rowdy. I don't know if that's a thing or if people weren't buying alcohol or what it was, but just there wasn't a lot of drunks. And that was kind of a neat observation. I went to see Jelly Roll. And if you guys haven't listened to this kid, he's got a great story and he puts out some good tunes. The live energy, the live concert he put on, the energy he put into it, to the people, to the crowd, to all of it was stunning. Very, very impressive. Very, very enjoyable. This Jelly Roll guy, well, who's got a future, all right. But you know me. I know everything's rigged. I know that every single person that's ever been put in front of you is more than likely one of them. And, I say these things, and as our audience grows, obviously we'll never get to that super high stardom fame thing if I believe it to be that way. It's a weird conundrum. Do I want to be huge? Absolutely not. I don't want to have to live up to anything. I don't want to have to change what I say or how I say it. I don't want to change my tonality. I don't want to have to do anything other than just simply be myself. And I don't want to have to play a character for the world to see. So you see this a lot, but I look at this and we are growing. This podcast is growing, thankfully, thanks to you guys, exponentially. I'm sure you guys are sharing this with friends and stuff like that, which is fantastic because we haven't done marketing. I haven't, really shared this out anywhere. So it is essentially a word of mouth campaign that has us growing. We have the Instagram account and people can see that. But we don't even really talk about the podcast that often on the Instagram account. Every single time I poll the crowd on the Instagram, not many people know that we've got this going on over here. So right now we're niche. Right now we're fantastic. But again, the numbers are growing. So I say that because guys like Jelly Roll just seem so real and so authentic. But at the same time, when you like somebody so much and when you appreciate what they're doing and what they're putting out there, and that they have access to things like that, it just seems to me like if they're going to promote somebody that go on the main stage of a giant festival, that he's got connections and ties and he's done something in the industry to get to where he needs to be. Does that make him a terrible person? No. If you take your moments and if you take your talent and if you put it out there, knowing that the system is moderately corrupt, and you try to utilize it against it, like if he just disappears and nobody promotes him anymore, then, maybe he did, or maybe he was doing the right thing. Maybe he was the guy. I don't know. It's a very strange place. It's a very strange ideology. And I like I've said 1,000 times, if you can't question even especially your deepest beliefs about things, then you're a prisoner of them. So I witnessed these things and I witnessed these changes and I witnessed the climate change and I don't mean climate change. I mean, I witnessed the the tonality change. I witnessed the climate of the people, of the industry, of the everything change. Maybe that's what they mean by climate change. We're changing the climate of the entire scenario. And I watch this stuff and I see this stuff and I think to myself, is everybody a plant? Is everybody something? And then it almost sounds paranoid when I say these things, but it's not paranoia. I'm not upset about it. I don't necessarily believe in right or wrong, good or evil. I believe in energetic exchanges. If you're going to be a piece of shit things are going to happen to you. If you're going to be a great person, if you're going to do your best to live as integral as you possibly can and just to operate in a high place, I think good things are going to happen. I'm a living proof. Good things happening. I'm also living proof of shitty things happening. And it's funny because it's not like anybody ever sets out to be a terrible person. But in that Jelly Roll song, Same Old Asshole, it's, he's talking about that. He goes, I do everything I can do and I try to be everything I can be. And people still want me to be that same old asshole. They still want, this to come back. And again, this ties back into your past too. You're not a prisoner of your past. This is the biggest thing. This is one of the biggest takeaways in the world. Every single person I've ever met that's ever tried to step into purpose, or that is stepping into purpose, that's stepping into the light, that's sharing themselves and their energy with people, they've come from hell. Like I've said before, either self-induced or it happened to them. But I read somewhere recently that the scars you have from the actions that you've taken are the very things that are changing the way you function. I mean, if you were a piece of shit and you did a lot of terrible things and you're still a piece of shit and you're still doing a lot of terrible things, well, that's some grade A buffoonery right there. But if you were a piece of shit, why? How come we never got the opportunity to say what made this person this way? How come we never got the opportunity to say why, yes, he did these terrible, heinous things, but why? Why did he do them? And you get to a point, you're like, whoa, who am I supposed to forgive? Why am I supposed to forgive? Am I supposed to take the whole thing into account? You look externally at the people that you may or may not be observing, and you look internally at yourself, the things that you've done that you've never talked about, the things that you're ashamed about, the things that I don't even know how to put it properly, but like just the past, your past, anything that you can focus on, let's just say, in a negative connotation of who you are. If you have a memory of it, this is the thing that changes you. Because there's a million times in our lives where we've done terrible things to people that we don't even know. You cut somebody off in traffic, they spill their coffee, they've got a mess all over them, they missed the job interview, that sort of thing. This person's forever hunting down a black Buick LeSabre they only got half the plate after you cut them off. You don't even know you've done it, but you've altered this other person's life. Now, whenever I say that, I always have to reiterate the story. If that person wasn't so late and in such a hurry in their appointment and blah, 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 they wouldn't be blah, blah, blah. So everything happens exactly as it's supposed to throughout the course of everything to teach everybody the lessons they need to learn. Which sounds pedantic, but it's true. Every single thing is interconnected and intertwined. I'm having a hard time with my words today. Saying hawat, away. Whipped. It's fascinating. So when you see that, you realize that the good and the evil that we perceive to be the terrible things that we have to do are lessons for other people, are lessons for ourselves. The most horrible thing that ever happened to you changed the way you fundamentally function as a human being. Probably the most horrible thing you've ever done to somebody, whether it was accidental or on purpose, changed the way you fundamentally function as a human being. We don't often remember the great things. Sometimes we do. And that's a nice thing to remember, but that's a result of something else. So there's a billion things we don't remember. And since we are our own worst critic, we listen to the voice in our head that says, you're a piece of shit. This negative thing. And it's not just you, it's universal. And if it's universal, then it's programmed into this matrix scenario, wherever we are. And you get the opportunity to think about it. You get the opportunity to think about who, what, and where we are and how we're existing. I love that statement. Define who you are. Tell me who you are without using your name or any title whatsoever. Who are you? What are you? And the other one. Does a dog know it's a dog? No. The dog's only a dog because we call it a dog. The dog is just an entity having an experience. Just looking to love. This creature just wants to love you. And we call it a dog. The dog's not having a dog experience. The dog's having an experience. It's like the humans. Are you a human? Well, we call ourselves human. But without those tones, what are we? And I'm sure somebody who's never even heard the human language, the English language, the human language. Oops, Freudian slip. That's ignorance on my part right there, the human language, right? We think the English-speaking folk, anybody that speaks any language, but let's just say English-speaking folk because I'm speaking it and you're listening to it. The English-speaking folk, we dream in English. We think in English. We speak in English. And every single ounce of what we believe to be communication verbally comes from English. And what I mean by that is in the movies, the aliens speak English. The aliens comprehend. The aliens seem to want the same things we want. Nobody's even considered the fact that they've told us that space is infinitely large and consistently growing. And if that's the case, then there's spaceships out there, or there's aliens out there that come from planets that are so massive that if they do exist, and space travel does exist, and a spaceship were to fly by our little planet in the size and vein of infinite greatness, we would be but a speck of dust inside their reality. So you hear all these things about alien invasion. Right? For an alien invasion to be a real thing, there has to be a planet out there that is about the same size as us, so that the people or the humans or the entities or the life forms are about the same size as us. And they would have to want our water and our oxygen. Just because we want it doesn't mean everybody else wants it. Right? But we're taught and wrapped up in this arrogance about ourselves. And it's all false. And it's all image-based. And it's all a trap and a trick. I know I'm all over the place today. I'm going to get back to Jelly Roll. He talks about humanity. He talks about people. He talks about connectivity. He talks about stepping into purpose. I like his tunes. I'd like to believe that I'm wrong about everybody being a plant and manipulating a situation. But I think it's more likely that I'm not wrong. And I think it's more likely that the simulation is one entity. It is one whole thing. And without the possibility of you being able to figure or deduce or understand or comprehend yourself via contrasts to others, then it's kind of a moot point. Now, looking at the system as a whole and understanding and comprehending the system as a whole, there is no other. Right? The idea of other is yet another idea of separation. And this applies to politics. Ye old Donald Trump. There was a time where Kathy What's-Her-Nuts could hold a head, the severed head of Donald Trump. Yeah, she got into a little bit of trouble. But look at society now. Society is praising Trump. I'm not pro or anti-Trump. I'm not pro or anti-Biden. I don't give a shit. I don't pay attention to that. I observe for comical reasons and for pure hilarity purposes. Left and right wing both belong to the same bird. The idea that politics or somebody's campaign put together as an assassination attempt is absurd. Anything that happens on the news, 100%, is geared towards you. They want a piece of you. They want your attention. They want your distraction. I don't know. They want whatever it is that they want. So they have to create this false narrative to keep us engaged. There's so many people out there talking a big game about how they are waking up to all this sort of stuff and they see all this stuff. And then somebody shoots at Trump. And we think, oh my God, so now there's a multitude of stories. There's this guy who did the shooting. There's somebody who died in the crowd who couldn't just be a normal person, absolutely had to be a hero. And of course, it was a firefighter. You look at how all the Secret Service acted in the scenario, and then you pull back from all of it, right? And here's the biggest caveat to the whole thing. When you watch a television show, any television show at all, you don't get emotionally charged. Well, I mean, you do. You can. Watch The Sopranos. People die all the time. The Sopranos is a great show. Possibly the best show ever written. And I say that because it reminds me of a time where I came up when flip phones were a thing. You weren't 100% accessible, but you were starting to be accessible. Late 90s, early 2000s was a wild time to be alive. But you watch that show and you know it's a television show, right? What people have yet to comprehend is that politics is a television show. They knew Biden wasn't. It's not like Biden just could miraculously do a debate with Trump. They knew he was going to make a fucking ass of himself. This guy can't form a sentence. For 4 years, he hasn't been able to form a sentence. And we're supposed to believe that it's by accident. You know, we're talking about Zelensky being put in office. You know, it came down to, it was either, there's CIA documented tapes going about, it was either Zelensky or Klitschko, the UFC guy. That was going to become the next prime minister, president of Ukraine. My brain's all over the place. So it's a stage. The whole world's a stage. We've heard that saying 1,000 times, but legit, the whole world's a stage. We're watching a farce. We're watching a television show. It's best to have an actor in play, somebody who's trained to do this. Right? All of these people are trained. This whole subsect of society is trained. When we were kids, we would watch a television show and we'd hate the commercials. We would hate the commercials, right? But sometimes the commercials sold us something and we liked it. We're like, oh, fruit by the foot. Mom, I want that. Right. I never understood why they advertised milk, because it seemed like a staple. Like, you have to have milk. I never understood why they advertised milk. And then you realize that milk's not good for you. And they beat you over the head with the idea that you have to drink milk. Pasteurized milk is taking calcium out of your bones and trying to replenish itself because the calcium has been drained from pasteurized milk. It fascinates me, back to the television thing, that we don't think that we're easily susceptible. I mean, I think as a kid, I watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Hee Donatello. I love that cartoon, and I was upset when the commercials came on. But as we sit back now and understand and comprehend now, you see things like, well, actually a couple of things with the Turtles. But back to that, the commercials are on the way. So we don't even focus on the fact that we're buying up all the Turtle stuff. You can sit there and go, the show is great, but the commercials are trying to sell me something and I don't want to have any part of it. Meanwhile, you're sitting there as a child after begging your parents. You got all the Ninja Turtle toys. You got the shirts, the hats. You got all the gear. It's the commercial. The Ninja Turtles was the commercial. And the commercials were the distraction from the fact that the show was still trying to sell you something and still trying to fill your head full of an idea. I look at my niece. She's 10 years old. And whatever channel she watches on the YouTubes is all talking about go to Sephora, get face cream, get this, get that. So she thinks she needs face cream at this most beautiful age. And I can only imagine that putting all those chemicals on your face at this young age is going to ruin the way your skin looks later on. Nobody was doing this back in the day. It's wild. It's wild to see how easily we are programmed and manipulated. All of us, every last one of us. And those who start asking questions get shunned by the rest of them. Society is designed to keep you dumb, to keep you down, to keep you not thinking for yourself. Critical thinking is dangerous for society. That's an actual quote. Ridiculous. But that's the case. That's the draw. We don't realize if we're looking at something. So politically, you watch TV and you think, okay, this is a scripted show, but politics is real. Because that's how our brain works. If this, then that. We're not allowed to expand upon. Critical thought is not for all of us. So if this, then that. If the television show is fabricated and fake, if I'm watching Breaking Benjamin, that's a good band, Breaking Bad, or I'm watching Sopranos, or I'm watching Dexter, or I'm watching Dallas from the 80s, Designing Women. All of these shows are shows, which means politics is real. There's a difference between a pre-programmed television show and politics. Politics is real. This is fake. Wrestling is fake, but people get hurt. Once we understand that politics is just as much a script to keep you locked in and distracted from really truly discovering your own purpose, it's also a total control mechanism, because the illusion of democracy takes away from the fact that we live in a totalitarian state. Right? There's one leader, and that leader, that person that's in control of everything that's going on down here, is pulling the left and the right string, and we're fighting over left or right, as opposed to the fact that we're in a dictatorship. And now, expand upon that, politics itself is a scam. The idea that you have to do what you're told is false. The idea that the politicians anywhere have anything to do with anything, period, is false. The idea that these people are doing deals for different countries above our heads about this, about that, about war, about blah, 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 it's false. Any single civilian anywhere can do whatever the hell they want. I suggest you live with integrity, because regardless of the quote-unquote laws, which for the most part are stupid, right? Every single person I know is a criminal these days because it's illegal to drink unpasteurized milk. It's illegal to grow vegetables on your front yard. It's illegal to drag a dead horse down Yonge Street on a Sunday, right? Laws are absurd. Ethics and integrity are mandatory. When you have ethics and integrity, you're good. People listen to this and they'll say, well, maybe I have ethics and integrity, but what about the guy next to me? Do you think anyone that is willing to kill would give a shit about the laws, period? It's not like they're stopping anybody from doing anything. All the laws are doing are preventing you or taking money from you. Speeding, fishing without a license, driving without a license. It's all just money. And money's not even the thing that we need to worry about either. Money's not the issue. The idea behind these fines is just taking money from you so that you don't have it, so that you can't even focus on who and what you are. This exists. Money itself exists as an absolute trap to keep you focused on money rather than intent and purpose. Our parents, the baby boomers, these guys spent their whole lives doing the best they could to earn money and to save up and to create. 90% of them, the majority of them. Some people hit it big. They got more money than braids. Most people did it mediocre. Most boomers have 500,000 to 5 to 10 million stashed away in all their stuff, toys, and assets. And now they spent their whole lives focusing on it, and now they're spending their whole lives defending it because every single investment is collapsing. Inflation is just robbing you blind without doing anything. It's just taking away the value of whatever money you've made. So this middle class experiment is on its way out the door. Ultra poor, ultra rich coming back in. But remember, the elite invented money to keep you distracted. Right? So who are the elite? Are they good, bad, ugly people? I don't think so. I think that everybody's, again, signed a soul contract. There are some people who have and some people who don't have. Right? The idea that you have all this money and that you're supposed to do all these things with this money is the thing that keeps us entrapped. I know some people who are just financially bloated and utterly miserable. And I know some people that have absolutely nothing financially but have everything. So this pursuit and this attempt and this idea that we need all of this is absurd. But how do you explain that to somebody in one shot? You can't. You got to tie it all in. You got to tie everything in. Back to Donald Trump. This guy, this show, this thing that we're putting on, the media was against him for 4 years. It was so crazy to watch him just be scrutinized and destroyed by the media. And now he's about to be put on the shoulders of the very same media. I don't know what that means. I know that I'm watching a game play out. I'm fascinated by it. They shot this guy. This guy's going to absolutely win the presidency. There's no way around it. You know, the whole scenario, the whole scene has holes. But how do we look at the holes? We look at the holes through our eyes, through our understanding and comprehension. Why would Donald Trump's people attempt to assassinate him? Why would Joe Biden's people attempt to assassinate him? Right? There's none of these people. There's just actors. There's just actors playing roles all the way through. That's just the way it is. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. You know? So is there somebody pulling the strings? Yes, of course there is. There's a grand puppeteer for this particular vision. Right? But the minute you turn the TV off, the minute you change it and alter it and go about your own business, you could go up into the forest and walk away from society altogether. Bring 20 of your closest friends and work and build and create. And that's it. Right? Those that say that they can't do that, it's because they're locked into the ideology that they believe, or they're locked into what they want. And remember, too, there's billions and billions of people out there that are very content and have never asked a single question in their entire lives with what's going on. Right? So if you have asked questions, and if you are of like mind, which you must be because you're listening to this show still, and thank you. Once you start asking questions, you can't go back to not asking questions. You can't go back to how it was, or you think it was. Shit won't fly. It's absurd to even think that stuff. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about this, but yeah, you know, if you want to start dissecting the whole quote unquote assassination, and I'll tell you this too, on top of that, it's going to get crazier. It's going to get weirder. Weirder as we progress forward, which is pretty wild. I mean, I'm excited for it because I love chaos, especially when you realize it's orchestrated chaos. Somebody's got this plan. Somebody's got this idea of what they want to do. And then they get out there and do it. There's nothing that can't be done in this realm. We have total abundance of absolutely everything. And what we focus on is what we get. A lot of people focus on mediocrity. A lot of people focus on scarcity. I'm afraid to lose. I'm afraid to try. I'm afraid to step forward. I'm afraid to do something. I'm afraid to pay. I'm afraid to lose my money. I'm afraid. These are the people who, if they move forward, it's in baby steps. I know people that are like, well, I've only got 10 grand left. Take it all. Let's figure this out. And I'm just using money arbitrarily, right? But have enough faith in yourself and in the system to understand that if you put your foot forward, the only place you can go is forward. Now, of course, there's always somebody that's like, well, if I put my foot forward and I fall to the left, what does that mean? It means you're on your ass. Stand the fuck back up and move forward. Everybody's a hero when they need to be. Nobody's a hero when it comes to taking care of themselves, especially if you live in cowardice. So, I mean, that's a whole massive other topic, the idea of cowardice, because it sounds so terrible. I'm not a coward. What are we focusing on? Focus on abundance, growth. What can I spread? What can I put out there that's going to have something come back? No, I'm going to focus on the presidency instead. I'm going to focus on somebody shooting off a little ear pellet of Donald Trump. This kid's on the roof. The whole thing's fake. The whole thing is a television show, yet we believe it's real. Jelly Roll was fantastic. Bluesfest was fantastic. We saw The Offspring as well. They're great. A nice little throwback. Limp Bizkit on July 24th is going to be a hilarious show as well. All these songs from the 80s. I was going to do a whole bit. I remember thinking about that a long time ago. I'm going to do a whole bit, a whole podcast, a whole show, like a series, not just one show, but a series dedicated to truth in music. And as I started doing the research, I realized that it's almost every single song. You listen to anything from Nine Inch Nails, Tool, like these guys back in the day, Silverchair. So many of these bands were just promoting like anything by System of a Down. They're just telling you the truth. And we're like, this is catchy. Or it's about a girl, or it's about this, or it's about that. It's about whatever we perceive our lives to be perceiving at the time that we're perceiving it. Oh yeah, back to the Ninja Turtles. I forgot that thing. The Ninja Turtles was great. You and me as kids watching the Turtles? Oh, yeah. Turtles video game? The best. Ninja Turtles were the shit. Now, what do we know, or what do we think we know? What if the conspiracies allowed us to believe about reptilians living in the sewer? Reptilians living underground. And what do we know about pizza? What do we know about pizza? What do we know about reptilians and pizza? What do we know about Pizzagate? What do we know about reptilians and pizza? We were programmed from birth to love reptilians and pizza. What do we know? What do we know? Ladies and gentlemen, in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.